Saoradh as revolutionary Republican socialists have a duty to present a revolutionary analysis on all of the issues in which we are involved in addressing. This very weekend, Saoradh will assemble throughout this nation and pay tribute not only to the people who declared a republic, but for the very ideals in which that republic was formed. What is occurring in this city today is shameful. It does not constitute a demand for immunity from prosecution, because we all know, and the organisers of the pro-imperialist rally all know, that immunity from prosecution was granted by the British government to its paid assassins a long, long time ago. The family members of victims of imperialist violence and the victims' groups of imperialist violence who are gathered here today can attest to the truth of this fact better than I ever could. Today's so-called Veterans Rally, or Imperialist Murderers Rally, is an extension of the imperialist agenda to carefully foster divisions in this country. Sectarianism is as vital a component part in the make-up and the substance of British rule today as it was when James Connolly challenged it in the proclamation. The organisers of today's pro-imperialist rally elicit a wave of grief when they proposed that a similar event be held on the scene of the Bloody Sunday massacre last January. So forceful was the expression of the people's grief and anger that the veterans of the Crown Forces were forced on that occasion to cancel their event. An analysis of their failure to rally in Derry returned a conclusion that encouraged them to exploit sectarian divisions in Belfast and ensure that the rally would succeed here. This entire fiasco is a manifestation of what happens when imperialism co-joins with supremacist ideology, which it creates for the sole purpose of provoking and disempowering the native people. They don't want an amnesty because they already have one. Who among them has been prosecuted or incarcerated for any of the hundreds of thousands of murders they committed in Ireland, Kenya, Aden, Afghanistan, Iraq or Syria? Those few who have been convicted have had their charges reduced, like Alexander Blackman recently, or have been freed, readmitted to the imperialist forces and promoted in the ranks, like Lee Craig, who was after murdering Callan Riley and Martin McBeak. We can determine, therefore, that what these people actually want is that all of the many questions that arise from their crimes in Ireland cease and be replaced with an acceptance from the Irish people that the British government can do as it pleases. Imperialism is defined as being a policy which extends a country's power through colonialism. England's power in the minds of the British government and their native supporters in Ireland is absolute. And being deemed absolute, then how could they express remorse for what they have done and continue to do so in the name of colonialism? So while the right-wing reactionary remnants of the Empire rally adjacent to us today, surely the most fitting way to confront them is with a revolutionary response that exposes the ugliness of what they seek and defend. There can be no solution to any of the issues associated with British rule in Ireland until the core cause of conflict in Ireland, British imperialist capitalist rule, has been addressed and fully resolved. In organising ourselves today against British rule, we must always be wary of the traps that are laid to ensnare us. As Easter approaches, it is perhaps the most appropriate time to look at what imperialism creates here and reflect on Connolly's teachings. We will remain oblivious to the divisions that are carefully fostered by an alien government in all our efforts, and we will not be deflected or provoked by the antics of these deluded imperialist bullies here today. We will, however, never remain passive while British imperialism today, led by Theresa May, seeks to exploit Britain's former paid assassins and their supporters in an attempt to retrospectively rewrite the history of Ireland and present it to the world as being a history of carnage, plundering, exploitation and death that occurred for threat of British involvement, British crime, British terrorism and British murder. Every revolutionary must always keep in mind the maxim, the duty of every revolutionary is to make revolution. Those words were bequeathed to us by the great revolutionary Che Guevara.